Did you give me the YouTube link?
Here you go.
I can just do this.
Hello.
Hey, there we are.
Hello. There.
Are we live?
We are.
Hey, that's my desktop. We should probably have the right screen up. There we go.
There we
We'll get this linked probably 4 or 5 months into this adventure. Who
go. We're doing great.
Bitcoin turns back into a bull again. Whoops, did I just go with the...
Uh-oh. I think it might be happening.
All right.
All right, guys. Welcome back.
I think you are, so I better shut up. This is the Coinigy show. So
Welcome back, everyone. So, made some improvements since last week, hopefully. So, got the audio figured out, upgraded the internet. So, we should be all ready to rock and roll. Fingers crossed. But I'm Joe with Coinigy here, and we've got Mr. Brian Beamish from The Rational Investor.
hello, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Ready to rock and roll? Who knows? We'll have fun tonight. Good part about it is people didn't pay a hell of a lot to watch these shows, so I don't think we have to worry about them demanding their money back.
Hopefully. Well, we'll keep it interesting, though. We'll keep it interesting for those tuned in.
Yeah, well, yeah, I know, never a dull moment, eh? Like Adam, you gotta give Adam credit last week. He stuck it. Hey, look at that.
There we go.
Already tonight, first one reporting in. You gotta give Adam credit. He is an absolute stalwart.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. We appreciate that. Yeah, we made some tweaks after last week, and we're hoping to be good now. Let's talk money. That's right.
Right. So I'm not quite sure. Oh, look at that. There's a few people. Hello, Adam. Hello, Rashford, EYO. Nice to see you guys in the hangout. We had, I suppose, like I said, a little bit of a false start there last week, but what the hell? I'm going to try our best. I don't know what we should probably have like a format. Maybe you want to put together like a one pager. You know how Chris,
Yeah.
daily brief, he sort of keeps me on task.
Yeah.
We have to do this. Then we have to do that.
I do got that here.
We have to do that.
Sent to you.
I'm not quite sure what kind of format.
Here you go.
Here, but,
I just sent you it in Discord. There.
All right. Oh, in Discord you've got the format. Well, I guess what I'm saying here is, can you just give me some guidance?
Yeah. All right. Well, for starters here, do you want to jump into some news or start with some charting?
So,
all right.
What's the biggest news? I suppose the biggest positive this past week was looks like Ethereum Shanghai finally got launched and up and running.
Definitely.
I suppose that's a good thing.
Yeah, for those who don't know, the Ethereum Shanghai upgrade enabled the Ethereum stakers to withdraw their funds from the beacon chain, and it impacts Ethereum's execution clients and is occurring in parallel with the consensus client upgrade named Capella. So that's kind of where it gets its name. And with this newly introduced liquidity, Ethereum's now kind of facing some heavy challenges as it's facing some critical resistance levels that were formed back in 2020 from a chart that we were looking at the other day on Coinigy.
Yeah, we could look at the chart if you want. I'm a little worried that this is kind of like a buy the rumor, sell the news event. That's usually how these things go. So I do remember I went and bought some. I actually just had a stink bid working around $1,000. This is a big fat round number. It's a psychological number, that kind of thing. So I actually went and bought some down here. I was pretty lucky getting filled down here. I think I got filled actually underneath $1,000, which was kind of fortunate.
Wow.
And you can see we got up to above $2,000. So, what would Brian suggest if you had bought less than $1,000 and the price got to 2,000? What do you think Brian would suggest? Let's see if Joe knows me very well yet.
Take your money.
Well, you don't have to take all of it.
Yeah, take some.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea. I have a simple expression. It's called shod. I don't know if you've ever heard that expression before. I'm sure Will and Rob would probably remember that. Any idea what shod stands for?
To be honest, I don't.
Mm. If you buy an asset,
Sell
does
high
it make sense that you have sort of
on.
open-ended risk?
Is that sell high on demand?
Close. So if I stepped in and bought at $1,000, and let's say, let's say I put $5,000, everything that Uncle Louis gave to me in his will, all right?
Okay.
If I could hold on to it to $1,000,000, but I still have Uncle Louis's risk there, right? If this thing goes off the board, then Uncle Louis's not going to be very happy with it.
We got Jay
What I
Wall
suggest,
coming to save me here.
yeah,
Sell half on a double.
pardon me?
Sell half on a double. I phoned a
There you go.
friend.
So did somebody in the
Yeah,
chat
Jay
box
Wall in
help
the
you out?
chat box.
There you go. J-Wall. Thanks, J-Wall. So what I often suggest to people, and remember, I used to be a full-service broker.
Uh-huh.
So that meant that by definition, half of my job was to just try and keep the people out of trouble,
Okay.
especially people from the public, right? Because they don't know what the hell they're doing.
Yeah.
So in a weird sort of way, you actually in Canada, you have what's called a fiduciary responsibility. You are legally liable if clients lose money. And some clients, in the brokerage industry, this is why Gessler has so much power right now, is people in crypto don't realize how much, especially like these YouTube crypto influencers and stuff like that, they don't realize how they are actually as culpable as any scam person if the customer loses money by participating in some idea that a YouTuber promotes. I think they will find that out over the next 5-10 years. So anyway, the point being that the easiest way for you to get yourself a risk-free trade is if the asset price doubles, then you just simply have a rule, illustrated purposely, and you can see that just happened right there, to sell half of the position if it doubles in price. So that's it. If you
Yeah.
ever see a SHOD reference, that's what that is, sell half on the double. Then that way, if you sell half of it and double your purchase price, then that means you got all your original capital back in your hands and you're just playing with the markets.
Okay.
And that is by far the most powerful position you can possibly be in the market, where you just have no risk. All right? Make sense?
Yeah, definitely. That's a
You'd
good
be
rule of
surprised.
thumb.
What really sucks is when we start going through these insane bull markets, the crypto kids will come out and say things like, well, if the price of the asset doubles, you should buy more. And they actually are like famous, like the Three Arrows Capital. You ever heard of Three Arrows
Yeah.
Capital? They were basically famous for saying that. And of course, where are they now? Right? So this is like boring financial planner, broker. And actually, ironically enough, I just did this on a name that I bought, KMD.
Okay.
Bought this back in January. I mean, can you, after our conversations from last week about W,
You bought the W. There you go.
Brian would like that?
Yes.
So that's my bread and butter. Bottom end of the range. This is like the venture cap reload zone. We just stepped in, just went and bought, right? Just like good traders that we are.
Bought
And
the
there was
W.
my double level, and boom, I got off a nice fill there yesterday. So and the good part about what I do with all of you guys is I eat my own cooking.
So
Everything that I tell you guys, everything that I espouse, risk management, planning, psychological preparation, understanding technical indicators, using them to frame your behavior, trading setups. I do everything that teach you guys. So I think that's super, super important. If I'm supposed to be a demonstrator of best practices, then I better demonstrate those best practices.
would you typically set like a sell order at double and like
Not a
so if
bad idea.
it's
Not a bad idea at all.
okay. So
The
just
only
in case,
problem is like in stock market land, of course, that's the right thing to do.
yeah,
Now, do you think that the people that work in the stock market and that run the stock market, do you think that they have the public's best interest in mind?
not particularly.
Yeah. So as a result, they actually, when the banks forced their way back into the brokerage industry
Hmm.
10, 20 years ago, one of the very first things that they killed was open orders for clients. And so clients now, if they want to work orders, add, sell, half on a double level, they automatically die after 90 days. And the banks did that on purpose because in essence, they know exactly how the right way to play this game is. And if and interestingly enough, right, if I bought this back just a year ago, then notice how it stalled. That well, I guess this one you might have got that trade off. But notice that it happened in the middle of August, and that bottom happened in June. So June, July, August. Did you actually get it off in 90 days? What usually happens is maybe the public buys this W, this bottom breakout level, which means that your average price can be 2,400 or so, 2,500 potentially. So they probably initially put that order to sell at 2,500, and it expired after 90 days in the stock market, and they've completely forgotten about it now. That's
Okay.
usually what happens. Having said that, this is probably the one good thing about crypto is that a lot of sites actually they don't kill open orders. Like actually, the name of the order is actually called a GTC order. You ever heard that expression, GTC?
No.
That stands for good till canceled.
Okay.
GTC. And how ironic, the banksters, even though it says GTC, good till canceled, it still expires after 90 days in the stock market. Like, what the hell? They're
Yeah.
actually being hypocritical now.
Good for 90 days. They need to change the acronym.
Yeah, well, anyway, that's a side story. And of course, Brian's an old gnarly, shaking his fist at the sky, that kind of thing, Crypto kids calling tails wicks.
Yeah,
Crazy.
that's too
Actually, why
funny.
don't we check in with the audience, the few people that we have here? How's the audio this weekend? Did we do a little bit better?
Yeah, is there a humming at all? We added some noise suppressions there, and
Adam was a total stalwart. He tried so hard to stick around the entire
yeah, we
show.
appreciate you, Adam. He did
Oh,
say
I
he
can tell you
started the
it's a
show saying
seven.
volume good,
Uh,
dialed
Adam
in.
dialed in. I'm not sure what I know what that means.
Hopefully, it means
That's
the audio's dialed in.
okay. That's good. I can see my picture on YouTube. He's not getting any prettier as the days go by.
Don't. That's not true.
You look awfully handsome though. You got a big smile. Looks like you're a very camera friendly kid.
Just smiling, happy to be here.
Oh, that's good. Good attitude.
Yeah, it's
Okay, so there is your Ethereum image. A couple things. Actually, I think I showed you this last week. So you might appreciate this. What did we? And I introduced you to harmonic trading. Let's see if you remember. What was the harmonic pattern that we tried to teach you
is
last
that
week? Can you remember?
I'm not exactly sure what you mean by harmonic. Is that the eight, like the A to B to C to D, or the head and
Close.
shoulders?
A
E.
B equals C D.
Okay.
No big deal. That's pretty darn close. So Can you see how we just drew this? Remember, we always said, I don't know whether you remember this or not. We
Yep.
said that markets often move in sort of like a two-step pattern, right? They
Yep.
very rarely move just one start point to end point. So interestingly enough, you can actually take that initial move. And if we do break up through that high, whatever the consolidation low is, that's actually probably your upside objective.
Okay. That makes sense there. So you do to the lowest tail?
Yep. Yep. Good identification. I mean, I'm a price purist. And what that means is every single tick that you see on this chart is important to me.
Mm-hmm.
I respect the price, like on this tail that went all the way down here. I respect that this is important market information. So there are others that are just like, well, I think it's probably easier to just go by line charts, right? And this is just the closing bars, closing levels of all of these candles. There's no right or wrong way to do TA. The right or wrong way is what works for you individually. And over my career, I've just, I started out as a commodities trader. So every single tick, every single burp in the marketplace is important to me. But that's just too long. Anyway, back to our story. A to B, C to D. Believe it or not, I don't think we're done here yet.
Okay.
I think if anything, um, we've come an awful long way. Can you see how we can do this same logic with this price pattern?
Yeah,
We
so
could go, let's see, we'll go maybe that high there, back down to that swing low there, A to B. So like that move.
okay.
And maybe we'll color this, I don't know, yellow or something, slightly different.
Clone it.
A to B, C to D. So according to this, this objective I think has been. And you might even, for fun, even just drag that up to that low, or even that low for that. Yeah, let's get crazy. So that whole move is half of the move. And then clone that. That takes us up into here. And yeah, I think that was the objective. I think you could probably make an argument that the Shanghai upgrade, build out, whatever you want to call it.
Uh-huh.
I think it probably was that measured move. That's what they call a measured move, by the way.
Okay.
I hope you have your journals out because, oh boy, I'm going to be throwing just a ton of terms out here.
And I actually went back and rewatched uh, most of the video from last week because there's a lot of good information there.
Excellent.
Last Thursday, like after I kind of learned it Wednesday and kind of re-went over it on Thursday morning.
All right. Actually, we don't even really get into harmonic trading until much later in the program, but this
Is that
is
like a level 2?
actually level
Level 3. Okay.
But some harmonic patterns, like you notice, some harmonic patterns are just the weirdest, where you have like, remember I told you last week, W's are usually bullish
Yeah.
signs. So you notice that this harmonic has got a W down at the bottom, but that's actually a bearish pattern. So I don't really like introducing harmonics to beginners because I really need for you to understand the concept of W's as actually bullish market structure first. And then what you have to do is you have to put in this pattern into context. Where does it happen on the price chart? So if you happen to see a pattern like this right up at the very top end of a range, like notice up here,
Yeah.
you see how this pattern kind of looks like that?
Yeah, I can see it.
Whether you can see that. So I don't really like teaching harmonics to beginners because to actually have a really good conversation about harmonics, you really have to be asking, you have to understand trade location. Like this pattern here did not develop down here because this was the bottom end of the range. not the top end of it. The fact that this pattern happened here, up at the top end of the range, well, that does support the bearish thesis.
Gotcha.
So, like I said, there's some nuances about harmonic trading, but yeah, this one of the simplest harmonic patterns that you can learn as a technician, just starting out, is this A to B, C to D, AB equals CD pattern. And for the level oneers, what I really want you thinking about, beginners, is this should be an area where you want to take profits.
So once it gets up to where the CD gets to, that price threshold.
Yeah, so remember we just talked about this minor measuring move right here.
Mm-hmm.
I might argue for beginners to TA, this is not a bad area to be thinking about taking some profits. And then remember we had said earlier, what was that expression that a lot of old timers in the markets use when you have one of these fundamental events? Remember what I
Is
said?
that the little old lady?
No. How does it go? Buy the rumor.
Oh, yeah. Buy the rumor, sell the news.
Right. So you can kind of see it now because this is a harmonic pattern. It's actually called a potential reversal zone. So I would like, you can see that this W came in down here. I don't know whether you can see this. I have to go kind of slowly. But you see the W here, down, up, down, breakout.
Yeah.
So if you did go and buy that, and you're like, well, I hear Ethereum's doing some big things, and I want to get long Ethereum. So that's what this move probably was all about.
Okay.
And, we've come into this objective, and this was basically the date of the actual news. So not really a big surprise. You see a bit of selling there. I mean, it's just common sense. So you could
that dump was somewhat expected, that big red candlestick.
Yeah, it's actually, no, it's not really unexpected. In fact, do you remember what we call this point B point? That is going to really test you. B R.
Oh, you're killing me. Yep.
There's the answer.
I remember
Potential
that. Reversal zone. Yeah.
And I don't know. Are you enjoying the flow of this conversation?
I am.
Are we not going in a different direction?
No, I am. I was just trying to think of the name. I was like killing me with the it was on the tip of my tongue.
If this isn't productive use of our time,
this is.
We can go a different route. It's the teacher in me. I don't know whether you know, but I used to actually teach 2-year-olds how to play tennis.
Really? That's gotta be tough.
It's a challenge.
Keep your eye on the ball.
Well, just with the 2-year-olds, it's just look at me, look at me. But so I have a knack for teaching people. I like teaching.
Yeah.
In my blood. My mother actually was a math teacher. So I often slip into sort of this kind of like teacher kind of mode. So my apologies if it's a bit.
No, do not apologize. I enjoy it. Coach myself, so I appreciate it.
And I'm sort of setting you up because there is more questions here.
Sounds good.
Did we say last week that there was supposed to be some sort of cadence as to when you actually decide to do something? Do you remember? What's the term that we like to use to describe? I'm going to do something. It's called starts with an S. Setup?
Okay. Yeah.
All right. And we said that setups, right? They really should have. See if I can stop.
There we go.
They really should have. How many reasons to justify acting? Do you remember?
Is it 3?
Yeah. And should those reasons be all the same kind of reasons, or should they be different?
Different.
Yeah, that's a pretty softball question.
I'll take it.
You remember what was our absolutely number one reason if we were going to do something in the marketplace? What is the absolute most important criteria?
Research.
Nope. Technical. We're talking about
Oh,
technical analysis.
okay.
So if we're gonna have three
Yeah.
reasons, and ideally, of course, we'd like for those reasons to be, we use the term unrelated. And you can see here comes people.
Coming to my rescue.
You could probably actually get the answers.
Okay, location. Yep. There we go. Appreciate you guys.
Yeah, no, I'm not looking at the. No, I don't know what's happening. I'm just gonna wait for this thing to come back. Anyway, 3 reasons to justify acting. I think I might have to refresh this. Let's open up a new one. I think I can do it that way. Oh, there we go. Okay. And we said that reason number 1 should be location. So, in a weird sort of way, remember we said bottom end of the range? That's probably a half decent location. And, I mean, it gets a little complicated, so we don't really need to go into too much detail. But I think I showed you last week, I'm a really big fan of what are called reload zones. So that's the term right there. And they're, in essence, 61.8 Fibonacci retracement all the way down to 78.6. And I updated a couple videos on the Coinigy site with these lectures, the Fib lectures. So given that the absolute number 1 reason to justify, in this particular case,
location in the reload zone,
that the number 1 reason should be location.
Yep.
And it could be harmonic. It could be a fib. It could be chaos theory, right? We've even done a tutorial on your site now with chaos theory, which
for those watching, highly suggest you guys.
Video, there is nowhere else on the internet that you will actually get taught chaos theory. No one.
Yeah.
No one in the entire 7 billion people on this goddamn planet. No one teaches you chaos theory, except for this idiot Brian B. I'm just going to
genius.
A nice little pat on the back. Way to go, Brian! You're the first one to actually try and make a positive difference in this world.
It's really good. I highly suggest. It's on Coinigy's YouTube page for anyone interested.
Great.
So,
in fact, maybe grab the link and let's throw it on the screen just so everybody can find it. Yeah. In fact, actually, a lot of people, for whatever it's worth, Joe, over the years, tons of people have told me the way they found me was through the Coinigy videos.
Yeah.
Now, those original lectures that we did got like tens of thousands of hits. And I think even one of them got even over 100,000 hits.
Yeah.
So anyway, so the point of the matter here is, and actually, do you remember us talking about reload zones last week?
I do.
Does it make sense now why
it's
the
there?
Ethereum price turned where it did?
Yep.
And it's kind of freaky that you can predict that ahead of time, and it actually looks exactly like that, right? Like, to me, that's incredible. So, point here is, in the short term, this is looking at, I might even say that this is like a weekly price chart. I might even look at it from that perspective. That's a great investment zone. And of course, do you remember what I like to call 78.6 fib?
It's substantial. Blanking on the name though.
It's hopefully what I become in your life going forward.
Mentor. The Jedi Master.
It's actually a term that I've been using just recently. Probably over the past year or two. But did you figure it
BFF.
out yet?
The BFF. Yes.
Yeah. Hopefully we can be BFFs.
Heck yeah. I'm
Anyway, so
sending.
incredible. And I mean, if you had just, you were talking about working stink bids, right? I mean, if you had just like the price was up top here at like 4,000, 5,000 a coin, and you're like, you know what? I'll buy some at $1,000. I mean, people in the public would have thought you're crazy, right?
I just sent the chaos theory link in the chat for those
Okay.
interested.
Well, chaos theory, secret of the universe. Yes, there you go, Adam. Adam sure has bought the punch, the Kool-Aid. Here for the Beamish, show us the way. Hey, there's John Becca. Actually, I had somebody on Twitter the other day say, "I'm not bullish, I'm not bearish, I'm beamish,"
Yep, I love that.
which I thought was adorable. That's fucking awesome.
Yeah, that's great. Trademark
But
it.
anyway, and all of you watching this video, I mean, there is the 78.6. You can't really see it that well. Here, we'll change it to like a brighter color. But I'm telling you, man, this level right here, that's the it's so powerful. I used to trade futures contracts. I mean, the futures bids, a lot of the futures buys, they trade 61.8 fibs. But me personally, my favorite fib is 78.6. Just incredible.
Someone
Anyway,
just asked if we can turn up Brian's audio a bit. I just turned it up a little bit.
all right, I am a bit far away from the microphone. Sorry, guys. I have a really screwy green screen, and if I move my chair around too much, it might just fall over. So sorry if I'm a little bit far away from the microphone. Hope
I did turn it up a little bit. I started it down just a little bit for both.
Okay, so if we think about investors, you know, these are people that really I don't want to watch the damn screen every day, Brian. Does it kind of make sense that if you're an investor, and of course you're going to have to take appropriate risk management, we can talk about different type of risk takers down the road. You've
Uh-huh.
probably heard of the little old lady.
Yep.
That is a very popular concept that I teach level oneers. Some people on the internet kind of bastardize, typical crypto and social media and stuff. But if you follow just the classic little old lady risk model, that's a person who basically can buy and doesn't really have to worry too much about getting stopped out. And they don't even want to think about getting stopped out. But if you work bids down in like the bottoms of reload zones, it's a great way to participate in the market. And if you're a little old lady risk taker, then you can just work bids and, fun things like this happen. If you throw in your bid in there and this happens to be $1,100 on this particular level, I don't think we got to 2,200, did we? 2140. Oh, you would have just missed that double level by a heartbeat.
Uh,
But anybody who bought the big fat round number, that $1,000, I think they just got their money.
nice.
So that's sort of investors, but we're probably speaking to a lot of sort of traders and that kind of thing in this show. I think you could actually make the argument that this is a trade location going the other direction.
Huh.
I don't necessarily think that this would be really appropriate for the new people to the market to try and master shorting up here. But it does make sense to me given the Shanghai event and seasonality.
Coming up on May.
Pardon me?
Because we're coming up on May.
Yeah, I mean, it sucks, but usually this sort of the beginning of May right through to the last week of June is usually a pretty soft time in speculative markets.
Okay.
You could even make the argument it's very similar to how sort of the end of September through sort of October, November You know, you probably heard of like the stock market crashing in those times of years, right? Like the
Mm-hmm.
crash of 29, the crash of 87. Right? They all seem to happen right around that same time. And I think it has everything to do with the sort of the transition of us humans, you know, especially in the northern hemisphere. We're pretty much the economic engine of the world. We kind of like we were, you know, we work our butts off through the winter, and then once the spring summer comes, you know, kids get let out of school, their families go on vacation. A lot of businesses, especially in North America, if you're in the construction business, they can't really start working in earnest until about the middle of April, right? April showers, spring night flowers. I mean, actually, I'd be interested to find out whether the snow is still on the ground in Wisconsin.
It's funny. So I got family back in Wisconsin still, and last weekend it was 80, and then yesterday they got snow. So it was like
It's still a
80
little
and
bit
sunny,
chilly
and then it
today.
snowed like 2 days later. So even down here in Oregon, it's we got like some random sleet today. Just and
Uh,
now and then I took my dog for the walk right before this stream, and then it was blue skies and sunny. So I'm ready for the Pacific Northwest rain to be done for the summer.
all right. So just the point being that we as humans, we kind of psychologically transition from sort of winter working our butts off into summer kind of stuff.
Hmm.
As well, too, there are a number of countries around the world that actually have their tax law selling deadlines into the June 1st event. You know, think of the same way we have it in North America at year end. Down in the southern hemisphere, their tax law selling deadline is June 1st. So there's a lot of incentive to sort of, well, incentive's not the right word. Well, from the tax loss selling perspective, it is incentive. But sort of just think about we humans, we make a big transition as we transition out of sort of the winter environment and into the summer environment.
Gotcha.
You know, looking at this chart, hopefully what you see, you know, if I was one of these trader guys, is hopefully you see this W here. Right? That's probably your bottom, right? And if hopefully over time, I can get you to the point where you say, well, you
Will.
know, hey, there's the reload zone. That's where I should have been buying. And then big W's come in following that. There's sort of your big fat buy signal right there.
So you're obviously we like the W's, but especially when they're in that reload zone is when the
They're even better.
yeah.
I mean, the closer to the bottom end of the range, because what I want to do as a risk taker is, and actually, this is a pretty important point, is I want to identify. I used to have an old boss. He used to say this. He used to, you know, he'd pull up a chart like this and he'd say, what's the important points here? And, you know, these are trader
Hmm.
points. And interestingly enough, the only thing that matters on a price chart like this is this point right here. Right there. All right. Can you see that
Yeah,
point where the market was going up and then all of a sudden it stopped going up and it started to go down?
because it smiled at you.
Well, this wasn't exactly a smile, but you know, the point being, this is an old boss. His name's Michael Patak. Same sort of thing here. What's the only remember, we're traders, so we want to try and identify when to buy and when to sell and not have to take too much risk. And then, of course, hopefully we're right and the market pivots. So, can you see how these points here are all basically like here, the market was going up, it stopped going up, and it started going down.
Hmm.
And, you know, same thing here, same thing here. These are really the only points that matter. Remember, I said I was a price purist. So
Yeah.
all of these ticks, everything, super critically important. But the point here is on a price chart, this is the only thing that matters.
Okay.
So if I can identify one of these kind of pivots, and if it happens to be that the market's smiling at me, great, that means that there's two lower highs. Then what that means is that the supply and demand dynamic changed here, right?
Uh-huh.
I think we talked a little
We
bit about
did.
this
We
last
we
week.
we did dabble with
Yeah.
that.
So in this particular case, demand was overwhelming supply. We got to a certain level. I mean, regardless of whether the moving averages are there or not. And then it turned around and went down the other way. So if I'm going to take a trade and I think that this is now heading down, then this level becomes critical to me because this is where the market is sort of telling me that price can't go any higher because something changed with the supply and demand dynamic. I think actually we even pointed out last week to you the concept of fractals, and I still
Yep.
have this on here. You'll notice that this actually spat out fractal right here, right?
Yep.
I don't think I would necessarily agree with that fractal notion. But anyway, we'll go with this.
So what do these tell
What do we
me?
got?
The fractals there.
Fractal should be off the top there. So
Okay.
or, how this is defined. There we go. Okay, so this actually is what's called an inside bar. So as a risk taker, I would sell the failure of this inside bar, and I would put my stop loss because now I'm short. I put my stop loss order just above these highs. Remember, this is where the supply and demand dynamic changed.
Okay.
And I'm thinking down. So that means that this is profit to me if this happens. So that's why this level is so critical. But you can even see, right? The market did it here.
Mm-hmm.
And in this particular case, boom, I'm stopped out. So there's no guarantees in this. Remember, we're risk takers.
Yeah.
This is our life. Sometimes, in fact, actually, there's a very famous technician that I used to work with, actually. Her name is Linda Bradford Radke. And I specifically asked her if you had a level and you were interested in taking a short shot off it, how many attempts would you take? And she says two. So here's a pretty good example where the first one failed, but don't lose focus. If you really like this level as a short, well, it turns out that one did work, and oh boy, did it ever work.
What of this level like helps in like the real time, like say that this is kind of going? What would make you think like this will be a good short? Is it the run up? Uh like
Well, okay, and actually, I'm going to turn around here. What did we say our first criteria of good trade idea is?
location.
Right, and what's that fun tool that I taught you that we can all use to help us see good trade locations?
Is that the PR the reload zone?
What do you think? Is that a half decent? You know, I just gonna draw my study from this low
Yeah.
back up to this high. Is that a place that maybe we
Yeah.
should be thinking
Okay.
about shorting? You see how that works?
Yeah. Okay. I
Isn't
can
that
see.
killer?
That is really that's crazy to me.
Yeah,
That is
you
crazy.
almost gotta go. This was scripted.
Yeah, I was gonna say
On purpose.
yeah. That's
And it's
wild.
ridiculous how often it happens. Right, we could do this range.
Yeah.
Maybe the odds are that this high was in a reload zone of this range. Pretty good.
Yeah. Wow. And I
So,
think I do remember the second one. I don't think we got to the third reason, but I think I do remember the second.
remember I said earlier that gnarly old bit traders
Mm-hmm.
love the 61.8 fib?
Uh-huh.
So you can see there's a really good example of it. Just kiss that 61.8 and then just collapse.
Okay.
So that's why we use the reload zone. It can happen anywhere in here. And then, you know, in this particular case, it actually worked its way all the way up to Brian's favorite.
That
So
this whole concept just kind of like blows my mind that it just like can add
it
up
usually
like
does.
that.
Most new people to trading, when they see how cliche this actually is, of course, nobody in the public has ever told the secret. And I know for specifically, there were a few guys at my prop firm that were really angry at me for going on this crazy crusade. They were just like, Brian, just shut up. Quit. You don't change the world. Just keep trading.
Yes, you
You
do
know the
change.
secrets. Now you're going to go and try and, share all the secrets with the world. Um, I don't know how many people I've actually touched, but like I said, those Coinigy
I was gonna
videos
say,
years ago, and that's basically what this is.
yeah.
All right, so and actually, this is probably a good next step. Is what do you think? Reason number
Was it
two?
the indicator confirmation?
Yeah, very good. Somebody write that down.
No, no one did. I told you I did look back through it uh
Okay, excellent.
the other day.
So, what I would say we do, I don't know where that little.
Yeah.
Oh, there it is. What I would say is number two should be indicator confirmation, and that is where, and actually, it's, just on an aside, there's actually a lot of old traders that I used to trade with that they didn't even really like using indicator confirmation.
And why is
I
that?
think it's good for the newer person to trading and to use this because it's just going to help the statistical odds. And that's really all we are. And by the way, is we are just statisticians. That's what we do. You will never be right 100% of the time trading. Just get used to it. Anybody who's watching this video, anybody who's later on or even in the lounge now, and of course all the people in the lounge now already know this, but you will never be right 100% of the time. And that's usually where most people fail in this. Is their psychological need to be right overwhelms making good decisions. And sometimes you just have to say, look, at my thesis was wrong here. It's time to go into capital preservation mode and just admit that I was wrong and get the hell out. But anyway, so back to your indicator confirmation. And what did we say is sort of our hidden tool? It's a secret weapon.
I remember we used the MACD, so is it divergence?
Yeah, very good, right? Ideally, we want to see divergence in indicators. Some people use volume. Some people use price. Some people use volatility. Like John Bollinger. Have you ever heard of John Bollinger?
Yeah.
Bollinger
And the
Bands?
Bollinger Bands.
Right. That's study about volatility and actually measuring volatility. So there's a number of different ways that you can measure divergence. Just the point is that the indicators themselves are suggesting that maybe price isn't as strong as you think it is. Yeah, price is making new highs, or yeah, price is making new lows, but the indicators are actually suggesting, maybe this isn't such a good idea. So, using our little example here, what do you think the odds are that as price was making higher highs here, the indicators themselves were kind of stalling it?
I'd say that was pretty probable because it went.
Yeah.
I forget
Especially if I
what
was
did you call it when it goes in a line across like that?
I beg your pardon?
What did you in the beginning of the show you mentioned, or maybe it was on our call before, but when it flattens out like that in a line, like
When
the
it flattens
like the
out
chart when you zoom out and it's similar to like the reload zone there.
the ABCD, is that it?
Ah, never mind. It'll come to me.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, just
not important.
sorry, I'm not able to answer that. Okay, so let's go take a look at the indicators. And let's just see whether we have any signs of divergence. Is YouTube starting to give us troubles?
No, we're seeing excellent connection here.
Okay. All right, so let's see what we got here. Let's go indicators. Boom. Can you see? It's a little bit hard because I got a whole bunch of indicators on here. We'll move the volume studies up. And actually, you know what? Let's use RSI because everybody knows RSI. It's nice and simple. don't want to lose my settings here, so I'm just
Yeah.
going to leave them all on the screen. Okay. So can you see how price made a higher high here,
Mm-hmm.
but RSI made a lower?
Yeah, I can see that.
There's a really good example of divergence. So, 3 reasons for a trade. You can say 1, location,
Mm-hmm.
and we can put a nice checkbox for location. Then, number 2, indicator confirmation. Now we can see price made higher highs here, but RSI is making lower highs. So we have confirmed bearish momentum divergence.
Mm-hmm. There you go,
I won't go
Adam.
too much into detail of the difference between confirmed and potential. And for the purposes of this conversation, we will call that confirmed divergence what it is. It's fine. So once the divergence has actually been confirmed, which actually, believe it or not, is right this point right here.
Okay.
Then the final ingredient. You remember what you said we didn't?
I don't think we got that. I think we lost the stream by that.
Oh, yeah. So can you take a guess? What do you think the final ingredient?
Thinking.
Somebody just posted again. Can we get Brian's audio turned
I
up a bit?
did someone just post that again? I thought that was.
I don't know. That might have been a few minutes ago. I don't
Yeah,
know.
that was from a few minutes ago.
Okay. Yeah, it's weird. Like my YouTube. Oh, yeah, there's a whole bunch of other stuff.
Yeah, no, that
All right.
one.
So sorry about that.
No worries.
What do you think number 3 is? And please don't help Joe here. I know all of you, and half of the people that are watching are students of mine anyway. They're just
Yeah.
So I appreciate it. Love you guys. Something this is.
Adam says the stream's good, but
Something about letters of the alphabet.
is this the A to B, C to D?
No.
No.
We will call it market structure.
Okay. Yeah, we did not get.
And in that case, we're thinking M's, W's.
Okay.
But remember where there was a little tool, right? Remember this thing here we had on there? Fractals?
Yep.
And remember last week how we saw a fractal off of a higher time frame, but then we drilled down to the lower time frame, and it turns out it was a big fat W off the lower time frame.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah, on the MACD.
No, but my hunch is we'll probably see this as well.
Yeah.
So these are 3 typical market structures. M's obviously are bearish, W's are obviously bullish, and fractals can be bullish or bearish. But anyway, this is how I like the new people to trading to try and frame their behavior. Setups, right?
Okay.
So we've got location, we have indicator confirmation, and then remember I showed you, what was this cheeky little thing right up here? Do you remember, what did I call this little bar right here? Can you see that?
Oh, I've got to look on the screen.
That right there. We call that an inside bar.
Okay.
And remember, we had on our fractal tool that anybody on Coinigy, you can pull this up. Nice little cheat sheet. It helps you out a lot. So you can see the little fractal tool said, hey, I'm a fractal, pay attention. Right? And we can even, and this is what we did last week with that other name, and it worked brilliantly. But we can even drill down to a lower time frame chart. So let's maybe just make a note of this so we can find this easily. Boom. go down to maybe like the hourly chart. I think we should be able to do maybe 2 hours. And let's see if we can find that. Let's see if there's a big fat M that develops off of that level. Come on, Coinigy.
Yeah.
You can do it. You can do it.
Might not be loving all the drawing, trying to.
Well, maybe we'll just stick with the fractal. So the point here is that that is a fractal bar. Actually, sometimes I've noticed that if I just load up a new chart, it will actually load. There we are.
You're on
Ooh, 3 minutes.
3 minutes.
Go down that far. Or 1 hour. Yeah, that was over here.
Mm-hmm. Oof.
There we go. So can you see? Now we've drilled down to a lower time frame chart. And that fractal, which is a perfectly valid trade setup inside bar, can you see now, and there was the trade level off the inside bar.
Uh-huh.
And you now see the smile. And the smile goes up, down, up. You notice we never went through that high.
And then down.
And then we slowly rolled over.
Gotcha.
Through that middle part of the W or M. See, it's
kind
of hard to see, but can you see the M?
No, I can.
And that was the level that we just drew up on this daily chart right there.
Yeah.
Fortunately, that's frozen. I'm pretty sure how to fix that. It's not doing it.
Give it a refresh.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, we have this right here, so you can see that right there. So, the point being that often fractals on a higher time frame will actually be M's and W's off of a lower time frame. So that was that sell signal there.
Gotcha.
You tell me. Is that a pretty good setup? And if mom called you up and said, Joe, I've been trading and I'm doing pretty good on using the Coinigy site, and I hit this Reno zone with the Bear Demon RSI and an inside bar, and we're all going to Hawaii. You been a happy camper?
No, not if it's the next couple candlesticks look like that.
Right, now I'm not quite sure what happens. Maybe it's my internet. I've not been noticing my internet's acting really weird lately. Yeah. Okay, good. Good to see we still. Maybe YouTube doesn't like my voiceover. The algorithm goes all crazy.
Gets
Did
confused.
I sound like mom at all?
You did.
Remotely close?
You're almost there.
Anyway, what do you think? That would have been a hell of a trade, eh?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness! I mean, like if you have
if you're short in there,
right at the bottom, that's a 7-to-1 risk reward. Hot dang! So, and ironically enough, this isn't too outlandish because you could have said, "I'm going to sell when this or buy my short back when this trade hits this trend line." So look at that! Boom, boom!
Wow!
Big profit. Wouldn't that be killer?
Jeez.
You had just shown your friends that was the trade you did. You shorted that and you took profits there. Okay, you look like a genius.
Yeah.
And really, this is everything that we teach. So, trade location, indicator confirmation, price structure, go. There you are. In a nutshell.
Hey, caramba.
Big Brother is watching
and listening.
I actually, you know how bad the situation in Canada is now, Joe? This is horrible. We have socialized medicine, so you're not allowed to go and buy private medicine.
Okay.
And somebody today kind of noticed that I wasn't in the best of spirits this morning. I said, Brian, you should go to a doctor and get your levels checked. And I mean, I could go to a clinic, but they won't do things like blood tests there. I mean, if I was like, my arm chopped off, then they'll sew it back together, right? Or, something like, oh, how's your health? We should do some tests to see what's wrong with you. No, they're not going to do that with me.
Wow.
So then I go to the government-sponsored site to find a family doctor, because everybody's supposed to have a family doctor.
Mm-hmm.
A 1 year waiting list. Isn't that incredible?
Wow.
And you're not even allowed to buy private insurance here. So at least down in the States, I mean, it's going to cost me an arm and a leg,
Mm-hmm.
but at least you could go to a private doctor, right, and get looked at.
Urgent
You can't
cares
even
and
do that.
stuff. Wow.
So you're right, Michael. Big Brother is watching. They're listening, and they're wondering why they're not substitute drama teachers anymore. How the hell did they get vaulted into positions of authority in our society? But anyway, so that's half the reason why I'm a little bit kind of screwy today. Anyway, okay, so really, really good tutorial. I'll tell you, man. That would
Yeah,
actually make a really good, like almost like a YouTube short.
definitely.
Maybe I might even get Chris to edit that up and have that in the stream, because that, I'll tell you, that walkthrough that I just did with you there, that was a really, really good trade setup.
Agreed. That was
So
helpful.
now everybody's probably like, okay, well, what's going to happen now?
Well, let's see.
Yeah. So now that we've sort of given you the backdrop of what we should look for, now let's go and see what today looks like. Do we have similar situation? Let's go see. All right. So I think what we had here was a harmonic pattern.
Yep.
Boom, 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 boom. If we look at our momentum indicators, we do have a potential divergence here, but it's not confirmed yet. What do I mean by that? Notice that while we were making these higher highs here, notice that the RSI was heading lower and lower and lower. So you kind of knew that as we were chopping away through here, that at some point the price was going to have to break and sort of obey the momentum indicators. Does that make sense?
Does.
So we had a fairly violent bounce off the lows here. But the good part about it is higher highs, higher lows. We haven't really gone, notice like this M here was pretty well defined. That right there.
Uh-huh.
This is just like, and then it's pulling back. I don't think it's really that well defined. So I would actually expect the RSI to come back up and test this high again. And we will, anybody who's watching will say, especially TRIers will say, well, Brian, isn't this a massive divergence from this high to this high and then this high to that lower high? And the answer is yes. But that divergence actually isn't confirmed until we actually go through this low point in the RSI over here. So if you do happen to see, and maybe Ethereum just absolutely pukes out here, I don't know. I doubt it, but
hopefully not.
Well, actually, in the video today, I actually made the argument I would prefer that if we do have a correction, that it is a really violent, like one day, just rip the band-aid off. Because then we can set a technical base, kind of like, you see how violent this move was here?
Uh-huh.
So we rip the band-aid off, RSI goes actually oversold, and then we can get back to business. So in a weird sort of way, I would prefer that actually the correction be violent, but that's just me, old gnarly technician. But I would really say right now that momentum is really just trapped between these two extremes. And you might even argue, like the real RSI purists, I would say actually there's your trend line in RSI, and it's actually very flat. Right? You see that there
Okay.
to there. There's your RSI trend line. So for this market to actually be healthy and normal, believe it or not, you actually do want to see RSI come all the way back down to that trend line and bounce
Come up. Okay.
That would actually be okay. And as I said, that massive divergence, that would only be confirmed if we actually came down to this trend line and punched through that line, and then the line actually acts as resistance, and we actually are embedded below it. Then I'd be like, oh boy, we got major problems. I don't see that happening. Why? Because as I showed you before, I still think that there's this harmonic that's floating out there that's still a little bit higher. So what is going on here? I think that we had a short-term news event by the rumor, sell the news.
Mm-hmm.
We might just set up a top here where if the price of the asset does rally up and make new highs, but then the RSI indicator does not, and then we roll over and we get like a little M that comes in like that, then that might actually start setting up a trade setup for us to go short. All right, so remember our little conversation about this top right here, and see that M in RSI the way it was very well defined there.
Mm-hmm.
So what I would actually expect now is you can see that we've got the initial break here. Let's just take the so just like we had here, we have the initial break. And notice there was a counter trend rally on the RSI that actually made new highs in price. That would be this scenario where we rally back up, but we don't break these highs, but price does break to new highs. Then I would start getting worried.
Okay.
And just like we had here, if we get any kind of like M structure up here, if we have this RSI situation put in that div like that, then I'd be like, uh-oh, we'll probably have some sort of short setup here.
Okay.
So for the time being, believe it or not, I'm not that concerned. What I think's happening here is just a classic. Remember, I mean, what was the number? Adam probably knows this. Probably most of you guys watching this probably know this. How many coins were actually unlocked here? It is a really, really big number. You know off the top of your head, Joe?
I do not.
I think it's something like 140 million coins. Now, that's a lot of coins.
That is.
So would it be natural for some of those people to go, you know what, I think I'm just going to take my money and run. Don't have to sell it all. Maybe I'm just going to let a bit go. But it'd be interesting too. I don't know how to do this. I suppose probably people watching this video would know better than I would. How would we figure out what the average price was? Like, when was that lockup date? And what was the average price of the typical Ethereum that was locked up? And hell, if it was anywhere less than, 2,100 bucks, then they also have an incentive to book some profits as well, right?
Mm-hmm. That totally makes sense. But yeah, I do not know. I'd be curious to know that myself.
So, just simply put, you're asking me what my thinking is here. My thinking is people that did step in off the bottom here, they don't necessarily need to sell everything. But because that was a news event, buy the rumor, sell the news, I think they were highly incentivized to take some profit.
Makes sense.
Now, there is a really cool tool that we use, and actually it's in the Fib lectures that I did for you guys that we just updated. What is the Fib number that we should expect at any given point in time the market should trade back to that Fib level? And it's just what naturally should happen. Any ideas? It's a Fib. So that's a bit of a hint.
Is that the 78?
No. That means there's a serious correction.
Okay.
Anyway, 38.2.
Okay.
And actually, even if we go off of the entire, well, let's go off of this range here, just for conversation. I'll put my 38.2 fib on here.
Adam says, I read most people are underwater who have the Ethereum locked up.
Ah, interesting. Okay, well then that would explain. If we see the volume here, let's see what kind of volume it is. That was this indicator I had up top there, but let's see, how do I?
Here, the volume, you've got it closed out on this chart.
Yeah, you can see the volume bars. There they are there.
Oh,
Just gotta know how
that
to
one.
maximize that.
I was gonna say you can turn it on this chart here. You can see you've got the eyeball like deselected.
The eyeball. Here,
yeah.
let's just go like that. All right, so now we can see the volume. We'll go like that, and there's your sellers. It's not a huge amount. What is that? OBD. How do we see what that volume number is? Where is that? I guess it's over here. It's about 18,000 coins. It's not really that. That's probably guys who bought that 1,000 number and who are just ringing the register on the news event. It's not the 140 million. And Adam makes a pretty good point there that probably a lot of those people, I hate to say it, and like I said, this would be really interesting, but when was it? Was it like up here? Was it up here? And if so, if they're here, well, then they really don't have a lot of incentive to sell, right? They're probably just leave it stable. So where were we? Okay, yeah. So what is a natural, simple, healthy technical correction? At any given point in time, you should expect this. And if you've never heard this before, write this down. All right, everybody should have their journals out.
Yeah.
At any given point in time, anytime, any chart, anywhere, you should expect a 38.2 retracement.
Okay.
So, can you see how 38.2 here just so happens to line up with this breakout level?
Okay. That makes sense.
Now, man, I'm just being merciless with you here tonight.
No, I mean, I'm loving
and I
this.
expect you all, of course, there's going to be a quiz after this, so you're going to have to answer all these questions later on. So I hope you're ready.
Try my best.
What would we call this event here, where the market puts in this big W, it breaks out, then it comes back and it kisses this original breakout level? Any idea what we call that? How can I delay until somebody over on
I don't know.
YouTube page answers?
I was actually just reading what Adam was saying that about the number that were released.
16.5 million coins unstaked. Actually, that's not really that bad.
Just casual 16.5 million ETH.
Somebody say 148 million, because that obviously that number's not right. Maybe it was 14 million. Maybe that's the better number. What the hell is 140 million? I wonder what the hell that reference is to. So thank you for the correction, Adam. Appreciate it. Okay, so back to my question here for you. Do you remember this? I don't think we've ever talked about this before. Gentleman by the name of, and I suppose you would know him, Richard Wyckoff.
Okay.
Does that name sound familiar?
Yeah.
So Richard Wyckoff lived 1 million years ago. Oh, they don't have a picture of him. That's too bad. Anyway, handsome gentleman. Usually they have a nice picture of him. There he is. Handsome man. And actually, I even have this picture in my Twitter feed, because this is what I think 2023 is going to look like.
Okay.
After the fact, when Bitcoin usually bottoms about 6 months prior to its halving event. So if we actually put in our ultimate bottom here on Bitcoin into like October, November, if Bitcoin's halving event is next April, then that would be absolutely perfect. That would just be textbook, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, this is Mr. Richard Wyckoff, and this breakout here, and then you see how the market pulls back right here and tests this original breakout level, this little doopy doo in here.
Yeah.
That's what they call a Wyckoff check. It's I mean, like he lived about 100, 150 years ago. So that's
Huh.
excuse me, that's how old that concept is. So
It rings true
you
to the
see
day.
how, pardon me?
I said it still rings true to the
Oh,
day.
absolutely. But isn't
We're
that
still,
interesting how we're supposed to use 38.2 as natural, normal retracement level?
okay.
And what a coincidence. All that would be is just price coming back against these most recent pivot lows and just testing the previous W breakout level. Not really anything out of the ordinary. So, yeah, I mean, I'm sure a lot of new people looking at Ethereum price right now are like, holy crap, down 10% in one day? What the hell? But actually, technically speaking, there's not really a lot new going on. I suppose
Yeah.
if we start looking at a few of my other preferred indicators to sort of get a full picture of what's going on, there is one indicator in particular that I built when I was a retail broker that specifically helped me see when markets were either what I would call, well, it's not what I would call, but markets are overbought or oversold. And this on Coinigy, we actually have the indicator here. It's called the Willy.
Okay.
You can actually just type in Willy and up it comes. And it was actually based off of an old client of mine who used to, at the top of markets, he would always call me right here. Remember we said this was a short location.
Mm-hmm.
He would always call me and say, I want to buy it. And it would drive me crazy, right? Because, I mean, he was just the absolute perfect sort of textbook public person.
Sounds about right.
This is a heavily modified Williams percentage R indicator, so don't really get too wrapped up in all that.
Okay.
But what I would just simply say is when the yellow line is above this dotted line up top, it means the market's overbought. And when the yellow line is below this dotted line at the bottom, it means it's oversold. And you can see we are overbought.
Okay.
This doesn't necessarily mean that the asset's a sell, but when I was running my book of business, and if somebody called me up and said, hey, Brian, what do you think of this stock? Should I buy some? And I saw that Willie looked like that, I would say this is not the best time to buy.
Okay.
Just give it some time. Let this thing clean. I mean, you can see that was sort of the same message here. And you can see over time, the yellow line came back down to earth, and sure enough, price came off.
Buy the rumor, sell the news.
Yeah, exactly, right? So this was a buy the rumor. The market got overbought. And I mean, you saw what people were doing. I mean, anytime
Countdowns.
Brian is putting out these tweets, banging out doubles, odds are we're near the end of the move, not the beginning of the move. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
People in Twitter, they used like crypto Twitter and stuff, they used to get really angry at me. Because as soon as I was posting the banging out doubles tweets, they knew that the bull market was just about over. Because that stupid Beamish guy's in there taking profits. You know?
Yeah.
So, if you see, and TRI is just banging out ridiculous wins. If anything, I have to be really, really happy at our community. They've bought this idea of buying W's, making sure to sell halves on doubles, establish those risk-free trades. And now, whatever happened to this thing, we can't get hurt. Right? I mean, it could go to zero. It won't make a difference. That's a very powerful position to be in. So I do think to a certain degree that people that bought down here, especially if you could get in around $1,000, they were highly incentivized to take some profits up here. And my sort of custom indicators that I built were screaming that the market was overbought. And that's not really a big surprise.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. That's a really cool
Right.
indicator.
Um,
I was thinking we could take a look at some of the other ones that we got.
all right. Have we beat Ethereum into the ground here?
I think that's looking beautiful. I think that we figured out we think it's going.
Yeah, I would say. In fact, actually, we have one site member. I'll finish off this thought. One site member that loves my 38.2s. In fact, I call this the first stop target in our education program. Another level that's important that we should always pay attention to is what's called the 50% rule. This is attributed to a gentleman by the name of W.D. Gann, not a Fibonacci, right? So this is the same thing as wicks and tails, and how Brian gets angry at kids on the internet calling tails wicks and etc. So the 50% level is not a fib, but nonetheless, this is a very powerful zone. And interestingly enough, if this asset acts based on sort of nature and what should naturally happen, we should actually trade back to what we call the 50%. So this zone, I have one student, and you probably have seen him. He's like one of the principal analysts over on Hero Exchange. I don't know whether you've ever heard of him, Colin.
Okay.
Affectionately, he loves this so much. If think of it this way, does it look like this asset is pumping?
Yeah.
All right, but we don't want to go and buy the top of markets. So Colin affectionately says, all right, we're going to call this 38.2 to 50% level. I want to buy this thing. It's pumping. So we're going to call this Colin's pump chaser zone, which I think actually is a really, really good description for this zone. So remember we talked about Wyckoff checks.
Yeah.
Talked about the market naturally wanting to do 38.2s. And Colin will be watching this with all of his community of pump people who love to buy the pump, right? We're pumping and all that, but they're not going to chase. So they are going to wait for price to pull back into Colin's pump chaser zone. Does that make sense?
It does.
So actually, that's a shout out to Colin. I love him dearly. A fellow Canadian, and just a really, really good person, a far better person than I'll ever be in my life. So he deserves all the success he's getting. And he's done very, very well in crypto. So way to go, Colin. So anyway, point of the matter here is, I think that's a half decent little buying zone, and that's what I would be watching for if I really wanted to get into this thing. And of course, at this level down here, I'd want to see signs of indicator confirmation, maybe nice bullish divergences. I'd want to see that Willie has cleaned himself out. Maybe RSI comes back down to this trend line, and then we start getting W's in price, and then we start the game all over again. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay.
It's so crazy to me how it can like the points how they meet like that. It just so perfectly. It just feels almost fake, but obviously it's all the data to do it.
Well, and also too, the problem is I've been doing this forever.
Yeah.
So
You know where to look.
I have a bad habit of making this look a little easier than it is in
Oh.
reality. You can imagine if I was talking to Joe Sixpack on this street, and of course, it probably doesn't show here now, but they saw that Ethereum price was down 10%. They would just look at that, and ironically enough, it's kind of funny that you guys have the Dom on here, because most people, when they first come to crypto and they come to investing, this is actually all that they see. And this can end up just paralyzing, where you're just like frozen because you haven't got a clue what the hell to do here.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why, again, having a little bit of technical skill acumen, it helps. And then, you know, the whole reason why I can lay all this out, of course, is because I believe in the three-step process: location, indicator confirmation, price structure, go. And I've done it a million times over. So it kind of comes second nature to me that I look at this right now and I go, well, there's no way in hell I would buy that. That's crazy. Don't buy that. That's just, you got to be patient. You have to be disciplined and you have to wait for your setup to set up. That makes sense?
It does.
No. Okay, let's move on to another name. I've beaten this thing into the ground.
No, I appreciate it. That was very insightful.
Cool.
Definitely learned a lot there. I
And
hope
I hope you enjoyed my comic stuff.
I love it. Um, Michael says just like tic tac toe. Um, all right. So some other coins that we've gotten requests for. Solana was one. You might not have this one favorited there,
Question
Brian.
is, where do we want to look at this?
So for I was just looking it up. Go to Binance has.
Isn't this cool how Coinigy has all of these exchanges all right here? That was the one thing I was always so impressed with you guys is they got like everything.
That's it. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that over 45 exchanges there for charting. So,
Yeah.
uh,
So the question
well,
is, where do you want to look at this? I mean, there's
so
a
in
million
terms
different places
of
we can go look at
volume,
this.
Binance has the highest volume.
Finance. What do we
They've
want to
got
look at? Do you
eight.
want to look at it versus like Tether or something?
Oh yeah, let's go that route. Yeah,
Right? Well,
18% of the volume is on Binance there.
as they say, volume speaks volumes.
So yeah.
All right, let's see what we got here. So I always suggest to people that the best thing for you to possibly do if you can is start, if you're going to do any sort of technical analysis, try and start at the absolute highest time frame possible.
So I will say
And then sort of work your way down.
this is one crypto that I'm in a bath with now. Uh, I just held on to it and definitely down some money there.
Yeah.
So this is why we need.
Well, you're not alone.
Yeah.
So take that to heart. Also, too, you know what's fascinating about this is, man, there were some kids on the pump up, just the way that they talk. That's the one thing I don't like. I mean, gnarly old guy like me, right? I always take everything with a grain of salt.
Hmm.
And sort of like, okay, what goes up must come down. But I swear, when you listen to these developers, and there's one guy in particular in the social media, I have no idea what the guy's name was. The way that they talked when these things were coming out through that last cycle,
Hmm.
it is frankly, it was irresponsible. But if I understand correctly, this thing has a bunch of problems. If I'm not mistaken, I think they had to actually like halt the chain at one point and go in and manually clean things up and stuff. So I don't know whether it's the next best thing since sliced bread, but you listen to the developers and this one guy in particular. I can't even remember his name. All I remember is he had no neck, and he used to say, "Make fun of me of the fact that I have no neck. I don't care. This thing's still going to the moon." Stuff like that. Okay, flying. If anything, this is a really, really good example of these 4-year crypto cycles. That while we're in the bull cycle, great, enjoy the ride. And these guys say it's the next best thing since sliced bread. Enjoy the ride, right?
Hmm.
As long as this thing keeps painting higher highs and higher lows, great. It's a bull market. We have a rule at TRI that as soon as you start to see M's below trend lines, that's when things start to get troublesome. So I think you could make the argument we start to get like technical breakdowns sort of here. Of course, this would have been quite, I mean, like on a clothesline here, but we'll even say something like there. So at this point, things are starting to get troublesome. And if anything, you see how this is a good example. Who was it that I said was something check?
Wyckoff?
Right. So can you see how this is a Wyckoff check going the other direction?
Okay.
It puts in an M top, it breaks down, comes back, and it kisses the breakdown point from the underside. So do you see how the exact opposite
Yeah.
situation? And this is actually the way markets love to work.
Okay.
Not really out of the ordinary. We could also say too, if we did our fibs, notice there's Collins pump chaser zone.
Okay.
So,
Between the 38 and
and
05.
50%.
Okay.
So you can see how we actually put an M. We came back to the 38.2. That's normal. That's natural. We rallied away from it, but then we puked out and M'd out on the other side of it. That's not good. You could also make the argument too, where are reload zones down here? My hunch is reload zones sort of down in this area.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that we M'd out through 38.2 should have been a bit of a warning sign. And I'll tell you, I mean, it's not easy. Don't get me wrong. Anybody who was long this thing saw 250 bucks, then saw it come back to 150, then started failing through 150. It's very difficult to walk away from that story at 150, right?
Yeah.
Oh, the old highs were there. Remember the name that you sold?
Yep.
You said you waited for it to go back up before you actually.
Yep.
So, it might be interesting. What do you think the odds are there was a momentum divergence on this push to new highs up here?
Probably pretty high.
Yeah, so there's our
Yep.
RSI study. Can you see that?
Yep.
So now, Joe, like literally for the rest of your life, I want you to be thinking about this divergence concept in the back of your mind. You should have been, especially when this M came in right here, you should have been like, uh-oh, that's bad.
Doesn't look pretty.
Right?
That makes sense.
Look at that pretty M in the MACD histogram. Oh boy. So there's lots of momentum warning up here that,
Yep.
What did I say was the expression volume speaks what?
Volumes.
Right. So here's a really good example. As long as the green bars are making higher, remember this is a weekly price chart, right? So
yep.
It's pretty slow moving. As long as the green bars are making higher highs here, everything's fine. But notice we got up to this high right up here. And then, where the hell did the buyers go?
Uh-huh.
It's like literally vanished. So can you see how this was actually a volume divergence when the market went to new highs here? Do you see that?
Yes, I do.
You want something to make money from trading? Something that's going to keep you out of a lot of trouble? Take a screenshot of that. I don't know how many people are watching this video. I don't know whether you can put a note in it, but that's fucking gold, people. That's absolutely gold right there. Staring you right in the face, especially on this massive RSI div. And the worst part about it is there were actually people that came to TRI to learn how to trade, and theoretically we taught them not to do this, and then they became very powerful social influencers, and they got sucked into this bull market, and of course they were making ridiculous money on referral codes and all that, and they didn't want the party to end, so they publicly came out and said things like, oh, RSI divergence? Yeah, don't worry about it. Just buy more. You'll make way tons of money.
And they didn't. And then they didn't.
And it just drives you crazy. One thing that I absolutely hate is somebody who actually comes to TRI, pays me in hard-earned money to learn this stuff, and then doesn't apply it. It drives me crazy. You're
giving them the tools to succeed, and they're throwing the keys out the window.
Pretty much. I'm throwing the wrench and the screwdriver too.
Yeah.
Such a bummer. So now that you've just taken this crash course in TA, and the good part about it is you should have this for the rest of your life. Joe, if I were you, I would go back and watch this video and write everything down.
Yeah.
Take screenshots of it. look at Willie. And you tell me, did Willie get stupidly overbought right here?
Yeah. Yes,
It
he did.
did.
He's over the line.
Yeah. Well, an easy way to remember this is if you see Willie above -20, and it's minus 18.182 on there. Is officially stupid. So there were actually a lot of warning signs.
Well,
It's just, do you think people actually respected the warning signs? Do you
no,
think anybody went, oh shit, man, I better just get out of there and just cool my jets? No.
not
And the
many, if at
irony of
least.
it all is that, what did I say my policy was? Every time something happens, I let some go. How does that go again?
It is sell half on the double.
Right. So let's say I made this really, really simple. And I bought this W right here.
All right.
Down, up, down, break it. Does it make sense that that's $45?
Mm-hmm.
That means what price should half of it go out at?
90.
5, 9, 9, 45, 90. Yeah.
Yep.
Hey, I tried to screw you out of some money. $90, boom, out goes half. And then what's the next selling level?
It would be 180.
All right, so 180, where's that? That's right there. Bang, out goes another half. So at this point here, I have not only got my original capital back, but now I've actually doubled my investment, and I still have a ton of coins on the books.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we never did get the third double, so that's about as far as I would have gone. But this is all very mechanical. I don't even think. I just out it goes. So even if the price collapsed down here, do you see how because of the mechanical approach that I take, I still have 200% profit, and whatever coins that I still have left on the books, so.
Adam says, I have a text message from a friend who all of a sudden was a market expert when Solana hit 200, and he wants nothing to do with the market these days.
Yeah, well, I'm sure he looks at this and goes, oh, what a nightmare. So
Everyone said what Solana to 1,000.
yeah, well, and that was just it, right? And that was when people who actually was behind this, right?
No.
Oh, you don't? Maybe Google lead developer of Solana. And then you'll go, now this is making sense. So why did are you Googling now? Let's see how long it takes them to figure
It's
it
this Solana Labs, which was founded by Anatoly Yavenko and Raj Gokal.
I do believe there
Let me
is
see.
a gentleman by the name of Sam Bateman-Fried.
Oh yeah, wait, I knew that. Yeah, I knew he was heavily invested in Solana. I don't know if he was maybe wasn't
I think he was one of the developers.
SBF. Let's see.
Anyway,
I know they made a lot of money on that.
right, and his FTX and stuff, they were all heavily leveraged. The Alameda, of course, was.
Yeah.
So you can kind of understand why FTX blew up when that happened, right?
Now a pizza delivery, dude.
Now he's
That's
a
what
pizza
Michael
delivery.
says.
Yeah. So, but does it make sense now why SBF blew up?
Yeah.
And it's just common sense. And the worst part about it is all these crypto kids, that no neck guy, they were the type 3 Arrows Capital.
Mm-hmm.
They were the type of guys that just keep buying more, keep buying more. The party will never end. And yet the irony of it all is that these crypto cycles are stunningly cliche. It's remarkable how cliche they are. So anyway, that's the bull. Now let's take a look at the bear. We can do the same logic going the other direction. We can draw a trend line off of that peak, and notice how close we come to this peak. I could almost make the argument that trend line's probably something along those lines. I was connecting the dots off of that high. I do like that high there because that was represented a fairly significant counter trend rally. I think I'm going to go with that.
Brian, your green screen in the corner
Well,
got pulled away a little. There we go.
feel better.
Yes, sir. You told me to. You
Whatever
told me to let you
little,
know.
floating green screen that fights with me, tooth and nail. See, there's the camera there. Hi, everybody. Let's go. I practice those on a daily basis.
Wake up, look in the mirror.
All right. So Solana's been in one hell of a nasty down. I suppose the good thing is we have broken the downtrend line, so that's good. Phew. And you can kind of see how we're trying to W out here, right?
Mm-hmm.
The only problem is I don't really like the look of this. This looks sloppier than slop. If we and then also too, like I said, I think that this thing is more connected to Sam Bankman-Fried than you realize. We'll put away our little fractal tool here. But you tell me, and actually in our school program we do this. We simply say, what does a W look like? What does an M look like? And ask your third grade English teacher. Right? If you go up to the chalkboard in third grade, if you can remember back then, and you said, Miss Teacher, this is a W. What do you think she's going to say?
Not a W.
Well, she might say,
Close.
well, it is technically
Yeah.
a W. Maybe I'll give you like a C minus.
Yeah.
It's a passing grade, but really
Almost there.
What we really want to see is I want to see something that is symmetrical.
Yeah.
And my apologies, I'm doing this off a weekly chart with a drawing tool, so it looks funny like this. But hopefully you can see that looks symmetrical. So that right there, that's going to get me either a B or maybe like an A minus, right? She's going to be a lot happier.
Uh-huh.
So we just look at this. Yeah, it's sort of a W. Down, up, down, is this kind of like C minus, maybe a D plus?
Yeah.
And a W, that's what I'm kind of thinking.
Yeah.
And also, too, we can draw a fast downtrend just off of this range. And notice, boom, boom, boom. Oh, look how the market is respecting that trend line. So what this tells me is that I think the market is still following this trend line, and it's a downtrend. And our rule at TRI is that we can't really get bullish of this. We can't really get bullish of this asset until we actually see one of those pretty W's on the other side of this trend line. So what I want to see, if this is for real.
Could you please zoom out so I can see like where it started again? I'm just kind of curious to see the angle. Okay.
That make sense?
Yep.
So, kind of like what we were saying originally, I might be a bull, but I got to see a W on the other side of this trend line over here. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
And then notice we broke the trend line right here, but then we went and made a new low. Oh, and then, wow, yeah, my internet actually is kind of screwy here tonight. You're noticing that everything's humming along on your end?
Yeah, everything's good here. The frames per second,
cool.
the frames
That's
per
good.
second is up a little, so maybe there is a little bit of delay, but
as long as you are humming along.
Of course, actually, I say that, and then now I say the bit rate is lower than recommended. Let me just.
What time is it? And we've talked about this before, right? This is sort of like peak internet usage time.
Yeah. We're an hour and 45 minutes into this stream, or almost an hour 50, and This is the first hiccup we're having. I'd say it's pretty good. The updated
Yeah,
internet and modem on my end definitely is making a pretty
yeah.
big
But you're
difference.
coming through loud and clear, so it's great to see that.
For those who were
Okay,
with
so
us
just
last week, knew the struggle.
sorry I've taken so long here tonight.
No,
Maybe over the coming sessions, I'll get a little better at this. I also too remember that I'm kind of half educating you on the fly here.
that's why I'm all ears.
All right. So point here is, there was that big downtrend line off the top, and we can get bullish if we can get a W over here now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Something like that. Right? That should be a high. Something like that. But you notice, wait a minute, and then maybe new low. Yeah. So trying to W. Now, because of this bearish structure, all this rally was a counter rally, and hopefully what you see is you go, oh, Brian, that was nothing more than a Wyckoff check, right? Going the other direction, a bearish Wyckoff check. Okay? You can see that?
Mm-hmm.
So we haven't really broken out here yet. And frankly speaking, it makes sense because the SBF guy, if I'm not mistaken, I think he's still facing a lot of jail. A lot of people
I'd imagine.
got wiped out. So, ironically enough, if they can find any money at all, they're probably going to be sellers, right? To try and meet restitution and all that kind of stuff. So, for me to be bullish, I would prefer to see. I mean, it's nice that we broke this downtrend line. That looks good. So now, can I please have a nice solid W to come in on the other side of this trend line? And I don't really like this as a W. You might be looking at this saying, there's the downtrend line. All right, Brian, there's your W. And it's sort
No,
of
not
like,
quite.
yeah, I think we could do a lot better.
Yeah.
And what concerns me about this is we might actually turn into a new M. And quite often what happens with these trendline breaks, and I really need to drive this home to the audience, this is something you really have to learn, and you're only going to learn through hard knocks, is I did see that there were some kids on social media and stuff that were touting this bullishly, and I think that was off of like a daily chart. So they saw this. This is this trend line. Remember?
Mm-hmm.
And they saw this break here, and they were all like rah bullish. And I was just like, oh, I don't know. I think they're walking into a trap.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, because this W came in underneath the trend line, you notice the breakout, and now we're pulling back. My hunch is we could very easily, I could actually, it would not surprise me one bit to actually see us walk down this trend line from the other side. I've seen that happen so many times. So just be careful here. I don't necessarily think that this thing's a buy.
Okay.
And if anything, what bothers me here is if we do our reload zones, you can actually see where Brian would be interested in being a buyer. 78.6, Brian's favorite fib. You know how that goes. So that's down here. I would be interested in that level right there. And remember we said that seasonally, markets usually soft through May, June. Notice by the time we get to the end of June, notice how we have that sort of, what do we call that? Confluence.
Okay.
So we got Brian's BFF. We got this downtrend line, and notice I had here right at the end of June.
Okay. That
You
makes
could
sense.
also, for fun, although I don't really see it that well defined, so I don't think we can do it, but just for illustration purposes, if you do see an M come in here, you can start drawing things like chaos theory levels. So this was an M here, so this M right here, if we do things like 2.618, that's usually a good sort of target for price. So you can see off of this M here, this level actually has not been traded to. So don't be surprised. Like I said, I mean, does this look like a W to you down here?
Not real. I mean, I guess, but
No, I don't see a W.
yeah. I mean, I was gonna say like slightly
I
up, but
see
no.
lower low, lower low, lower low,
Yeah.
straight up. There's no W there.
Okay.
So that concerns me. I wouldn't be overly optimistic
Yeah.
about this, to be honest with you. I think there's way, way better fish to fry out there in the wilderness.
Gotcha. Well, then another one that was mentioned was Cardano, ADA.
I had God, I remember a guy when I was over in Switzerland back in 2018.
That's
He
awesome.
had loaded up on that, and he had that back then. They were calling them master nodes. Do you remember the master node craze?
Yeah. That was like right as I was like coming in, joining shortly after I
Yeah,
joined Coinigy, and I was just kind of dipping my toes into like actually learning more about crypto. And I remember that being a big buzzword at the time.
right. I guess I'll just finish off just because I want to
Yeah.
have it on here. The next fib that's super important to me is 88.6. So interesting how this guy here, he he tried the bottom here, and then if I'm not mistaken, this is when FTX blew up.
Yeah, it's right. It was early November, so that
Yeah,
actually, yeah, November 6th sounds right. So that would add right up.
this thing's very, very. It's gonna take a long time for this thing to clean itself up.
Mm-hmm.
Which sucks, right? Because your buddy, right? He's trapped, and he'll probably sell eventually. Too bad. All right, where do we
Let's
want to
do
visit?
Binance again.
Binance?
Yeah, they had. I was looking on there.
Actually, here, why don't we'll go back. Well, we should revisit this. Remind me,
Okay.
and we'll come back over the months. And,
Yeah.
we will revisit Solana. Oops, let me see if I don't know how to do this. Finance, there it is. And I wanted to. Oh, you start over
Yeah.
here.
Yeah. Correct. Right there. Click that.
Okay. All right. So let's go ADA. So do we want to do it versus tethers?
Yeah. Might as well keep it rolling there.
Okay. And do we want to do it on Binance?
Yeah. Let's do Binance. So you have to do slash USDT
Okay.
or backslash. Yeah.
There we go.
There you go.
All right. Let's see what we got. Again, I always think it's a good idea. Let's start the analysis at the highest time frame. Right there. Ooh, hello.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, what's staring us in the face there?
It's a nice little W.
Yeah. And, remember we said 3 reasons for a trade. What was reason number 1?
Location.
Are we in a good trade location down here?
I'd say so.
Not bad, eh?
Yeah.
So we could also draw downtrend lines off of the peaks. Probably, actually, believe it or not, you got to go there to there.
So what makes you pick the trend line, like the angle of it there?
It's market structure. What did we say? The letters of the alphabet. If we're thinking bear, what are we thinking?
I'm trying to think what we said. Market structure was the W's, M's, and
Bears.
fraction.
We're thinking M's, right?
Yep.
So can you see how this goes up, down, up, fail?
Okay.
M is confirmed here.
Okay.
So that means this is now the prevailing trend line.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
It does.
Now the key here is we're looking at this at a daily. We can zoom out on the weeklies. You might, and really, it's just a question of trying to identify market structure. You can see on the dailies that was so fast.
Uh-huh.
On the weeklies, you could probably get away with that as your trend line. And really, on the weeklies, it's up, down. Right? We actually went as low as there. Up, big. Do you see the M?
Yeah, I do.
All right. So, as simple as terms, just keep it simple, stupid. Dailies, you can't really see it on the weekly chart. probably too fast, and of course
Yeah.
that was broken pretty quickly. So actually, I really don't mind the idea of let's do this weekly chart. Actually, no, let's just for the purposes of this, let's start off with the highest time frame. Keep it as simple as possible. We can always drill down to the dailies if we want to focus in a little bit more. Okay, so there's your weekly chart. Great trade location. Fantastic trade location. So there's your downtrend line off of the peak and M structure. Can you see the failure through 38.2 here?
Yeah.
So do you see, remember I was saying earlier, naturally, we should at any given point in time expect a 38.2 retrace.
Yeah.
So do you see how that happened?
It does, yeah.
Just very normal. And we could have very easily, like I said, calling pump chaser zone. Notice the previous bull. In this previous bull move here, from there to there, notice 38.2, 50%, Collins pump chaser zone.
Okay.
But in this case, instead of emming out here and breaking down, we actually bottomed and started to head back up.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes the 38.2 pullbacks just set a base for a move to new highs. Other times, hold on. There's something else that's coming. Other times, you do the 38.2 and it can't bottom and it has to head low. So that's why at any given point in time, we should expect 38.2 retraces. That's just the way markets work. Okay, so we drew our weekly downtrend line. And really what I was going for with all of this, is this downtrend line broken? You notice how it broke it here?
Okay.
Is this a buy signal just because the market broke this trend line?
Not necessarily.
And do you notice, remember I said earlier, like that Solana, you might find that the market actually ends up walking down.
Oh, yeah. That's exactly it. Yeah.
That's exactly what happened here. Right?
Uh-huh.
Isn't that cool?
That is.
The one great part about what I do is I eat my own cooking. So everything that you see, you will see visual examples of it in everything that we do. And it's so cool how it's so consistent. So our rule is that this will be a buy when we see what letter of the alphabet on the other side of the trend line.
When you see a W on the other side.
And what the hell is this? Holy three holes. That's a good sign.
Okay.
Now, what's really cool is, and this is, like if we look at the Solana, ironically enough, we could probably tell you exactly what the long-term trend line is. Because all you got to do is you got to go back to where the last base was. Can you see the W's down here?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's making higher highs and higher lows. So theoretically, we can draw trend lines off of that, right? I mean, that's what a trend line is. It's basically higher highs and higher lows. So we could have, and anybody can do this. You see how this is the lowest low right here?
Yeah.
So that means you could say that the long-term trend for ADA is just simply playing connect the dots. Yeah, we could even do something like that. Totally fun. So let's see if there isn't a lower low here. My hunch is there was a lower low back here.
It was just once they started. Oh yeah.
Let's see whether the market is still respecting that trend line. It might not. It might. Let's see. Oh, hello. Isn't that incredible?
That is.
Fuck me.
Jesus, that is crazy.
Isn't? I mean, like the stuff writes itself.
Chef kiss.
Why did the market W off here? Well, it W'd off here because this is the long-term trendline support. That's the way this game is played. So that's kind of funny, right? So it doesn't surprise me that this W has come in off of here. It's a good sign, and you might even argue that now, right, because this market traded through this high here, that's a valid W now.
Mm-hmm.
You might even argue that that is now a valid trend. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because it's a valid W, it makes it the valid trend.
The W is what defines the trend.
Gotcha.
And this is actually where a lot of people with TA fail. They just, I see it repeatedly on social media, like YouTube videos and stuff like that. A lot of young kids, a lot of people that use YouTube, they're not the old timers from Wall Street. They're, a lot of young kids, right, that are like super hip with tech. And it's fun watching them sort of create the technical rules as they go along. And they don't understand how you actually define what a trend line is. But what the hell? I mean, you got to give them credit. They're trying. So, looking at this asset now, what did I say was the most natural thing you should expect going forward on any asset, any given point in time?
If it goes up, it'll correct.
It'll be up or down.
Yeah.
Hint. Something to do with fibs.
The reload?
No, that's trade location. At any given point in time, we should expect 38.2 retracements.
Okay.
This is more nuance down the road. We'll probably talk more about this. In these wicks, there are actually guys who are trapped. Some guy came along and he bought this rally here. You see that wick right there?
Mm-hmm.
And actually, this is a weekly chart. So a weekly wick, oh boy, that's a big trapping bar. They are desperate to get out of those trades. They're dying 1,000 bits, right? So if we get any kind of rally,
So that's what those big
area,
wicks mean?
Pardon?
That's what those big weekly wicks mean?
Well, you can see there's another one up here. You see that?
Yeah.
And these kids, they are trapped. Anybody who bought up here, they instantly were told you're wrong. And if they were like risk managers, on the event of the break of this fail, they just walk away. But remember, most people in the marketplace are not like that. Sadly, a lot of people in the marketplace, they actually chase bull runs. So this thing jumped up violently, and they bought up here, and they're trapped. And same thing here, right? You can see the market went down, up, down. Had a pretty good week. Next week it opened up, it went higher. There's a bunch of kids. In fact, actually, there's a bunch of trap bulls here. And notice as we rallied into this level, these guys that were trapped, they were the sellers. So some kids stepped up and bought here, and they were buying into these guys as sell orders. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I mean, this is getting a bit complicated. But, for your second go round, I don't think we need to blitz you with that. But it just goes to show that 38.2, notice there's also this wick right up here. So there's a bunch of trap bulls right in there. And you see how these trap bulls here on this rally here, they were released. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And we have an old expression in the marketplace, wicks and tails like to be eaten. So you see how like this candle here dumped. And for the record, YouTube, social media,
That's a
all
tail.
you crazy Gen X, Gen Y, whatever you are, kids, that's a tail, not a wick. Anyway, do you see how when price dumped into here, these guys who sold here went, oh, thank God, buy me, to cover the short now, right?
Yeah.
And this, it created another tail in here. You see how that happened?
Yeah.
Same thing on the other side. It's the exact same, going both directions. So it's just interesting that you've got a big wick, a whole bunch of motivated sellers there. There's a little wick right here, motivated sellers here, and oh, gee whiz, here is calling. In this particular case, we would call this now not the pump, because it's not 38.2 going up. This is a dump chaser zone. Does that make sense?
It does.
So anybody who's a bear of ADA, they would be best to wait for a counter trend rally back up to like 120, 130, 140, 150, 160 area to short. Don't go and short at 42 cents.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, because it's in that 38.2 to
And then just
50.
to fry your audience as a great way to sort of finish off this conversation, are there any chaos theory levels that can help us here? So again, I got to tell you, anybody who's watching this, I haven't seen a single person. In
That's
fact, you ever heard of a company called Interactive Brokers?
uh-huh.
You might have heard of them, you might
I
not.
have. Yeah.
The guy who founded that place is richer than probably most third world countries. And he was interviewed years and years and years ago. How did you make your money in the market? And he said, I trade chaos theory. And then the next sentence out of the interviewer's mouth was, oh, can you please tell us a little bit about how you do that? Dead silence.
Yeah.
Didn't fucking say another word.
So
So
for
the
all those
fact that
watching,
the fact that I am showing you all of this, for God's sakes, and then really, this is a deal between me, Jojo, and God. I don't have to show this to the public, but I'm on this crazy bent to make a positive difference in this world. For God's sakes, you people watching this video, learn this. Because it's astounding to watch this stuff play itself out. So 2.618, that would be an initial objective. 4.669 is actually technically what they call the bifurcation level. Not really going to get into what the hell all that means. Do a Google search, if you will, to learn a little bit more about that. And then I also like to throw on, which is very handy, the 8.77. Oh, well, would you look at that? So now you can start to see Colin and his dump chasers. They're not going to short here.
mm-hmm.
They're waiting for their dump chaser zone. We know that there's a bunch of motivated sellers sitting here in these wicks. And now you can see chaos theory, a perfect expression of chaos theory would be nothing more than just a nice counter trend rally up and tag 877. And that happens all the bloody time.
Huh.
And actually, this is exactly the tutorial that I did for you guys and posted this on your site. We had some really interesting confluence of targets on Bitcoin. But I'll leave you to go and watch that video on your own. I don't want to give away the secrets. So go watch the video and learn. Have your
There, I did put it in the chat earlier, but if I was saying to the people watching, I did put it in the chat earlier. But also, if you would like to find it, just go to Coinigy's YouTube page, and it's one of our more recent videos.
Okay.
It's really something else. So highly encourage everyone watching to take a look at that video. As Brian mentioned, nowhere else on the internet you'll find that type of information.
I don't want to sound like a horrible show, but I'll tell you, I've never seen anybody else teach it, and this is. We don't really want to swear too much on YouTube, but this is the boot, folks. It really is. It just is. So, and it's also interesting too. You can see how 2.618 basically just lines up with this horizontal level here, right? Remember we said there's a whole bunch of trapped bulls in this candle right here. So any kind of rally up into this area, those trapped bulls are going to want to get out. Does that make sense?
It does.
So it doesn't surprise me that probably we rally up into that 2.618, probably clean out the liquidity pool right into that wick, and then she stops on a dime. And we can probably also, too, for fun, start hunting price gaps. Maybe down the road we'll teach you about price gaps. So,
got a lot of time.
There's so much to teach.
Yeah.
Young grasshopper. But my hunch is there's probably some price gaps in here that should be filled in as well. All right, so there's an image for you. Pleased to see that we actually have a W that you can consider. And anybody who is interested in buying this, what is Brian's favorite fib? Let's see if this stuff lines up. Remember, Joe?
Oh, sorry. I was watching you. I thought you were going to go. Your favorite fib? The BFF.
Right? Good. See, and that's why I like to give them those funny names.
Yep.
so that people remember BFF. They're not going to remember what the hell the number is, but they'll remember BFF, which is cool. That's really awesome.
78.6.
78.6, indeed. Interesting. We have actually here. Let's go reload zone. Where's the reload zone? 61 point. There we go. So interestingly enough, if I actually did want to buy this thing right now, this is my buying window right down in here.
So it's from the bot. Oh, okay, never mind. I thought
Top
you were.
of the recent trading range,
Yeah.
right back against the low. And what did we say? You know, these guys are a whole bunch of trap bears. They're short. You see how if we stab down into the reload zone,
Mm-hmm.
they're going to get released. Does that make sense?
It does. Now that I'm looking at it there.
And really, what should happen here is, remember we said this isn't a bear unless we actually get an M below these trend lines.
Okay.
So the market could come back and play down even as low into the reload zone. As long as we don't take this low out, we're still in a bull market. And then a final note to you, because I just can't stop, but I actually love handle body lows for trade location. So it might be really difficult to manually pull the trigger when this thing, it might just be one candle, right? It might just be one absolutely horrendous, ugly candle. And in the face of that, it's very difficult to pull the trigger, especially if you're just sitting there manually watching the screen.
Yeah.
I'd like to draw the box. I don't know why I can't draw a box. There we go. So sometimes you can get really big, ugly candles like this. So that's why I like to have visual markers, like all these boxes and arrows and stuff. And one level that I've found over my career that works really, really well is sort of to help me see trade location. Is this candle body low. So you might get a big ugly day that looks something like that.
Okay.
And then the next day, you get like a nice little inside bar reversal. Remember on the Ethereum, we were showing you the fractal inside bar sell signal.
Yeah.
Works the other direction too.
Okay.
So you might get something that looks like that, which sets up an absolutely beautiful trade entry. This is what's called a harami. Right off of that candle body low, and of course that's also Mountain Man. That would be just an absolute perfect trade setup.
Okay. That makes sense.
Anyway, we'll keep an eye on this. Let's see how this plays out. I mean, the thing is all you crypto kids, you don't want to see this. This is going to freak you guys out to no end. But given the fact that the adults are playing this game now, and they play for keeps, and they're usually very, very evil, would they be inclined to do something like that to really freak the crypto kids out? Absolutely. I wouldn't put it past them for a moment. So anyway, I'll keep that in mind, and let's see how this plays out over time.
Sounds good. I'm excited.
Yeah, what do you think? Was that a good use of a couple hours of your time?
It was. It was a great use. And I was actually just thinking, I was like, I am gonna go and buy just my own, like a separate notebook and just have like a trading journal.
Dude, slow down. So, in fact, probably what would be a good idea is, I don't know whether you can see that. Where's the camera?
There you go.
We have trade journals, like physical journals, that people, students buy. And actually, have you ever seen that expression from me? I don't know whether you can see that.
Opportunity is nowhere. It's now. Oh, I like that.
See, there's no wrong way to read that, is there?
Yeah.
It all depends on what your perspective is.
So can I order that?
On the other side, there's a nice Benner cycle image, and I think I showed you the blog.
Uh-huh. You did.
The Benner cycle's there, so we've got you covered. You know, if anything maybe what Josh can do is send you out a journal, and it's a nice, simple little book that sits on my desk, and it's my cheat sheet. And you want to see something really cool we've got in the merch shop?
Let's see.
Every single thing that I'm going to teach you, we actually have it. We have it both on mouse pad and on a coffee cup. I don't know whether you can actually see
Yeah,
that.
I like that.
Everything that we teach is actually right on that coffee cup.
Might
Isn't
need
that
a.
incredible?
That is. That's awesome. I'm excited.
We got to send you some merch, buddy.
Yeah, definitely. It's a lot. If you get it on mouse pad, it's a lot cooler than the one I got. So.
So anyway, I'm gonna maybe I'll just let you wind the show up because, like you could see, I could just talk endlessly.
Yeah.
So shut up now, Brian.
Well, thank you all for tuning in. Thank you, Brian, for sharing your expertise. It's truly amazing. I'm really excited to keep this going and keep on learning from you because I've learned already just countless things. So, really excited to keep this show going. And we'll see you guys soon.
Right on.
All right.